When you see them walking down the aisle, what do you think you're going to feel?
Great joy, because the last time we were in Westminster Abbey, my heart sank when I saw those two boys walking behind the coffin.
Some friendships are the kind you'd never expect, and that perfectly sums up the bond between Elton John and Princess Diana. Their relationship weathered decades of misunderstandings and bumps, yet their incredible closeness remained unshaken. While Diana rarely spoke about their dynamic, Elton was always singing her praises. Recently, though, he shared lesser-known facts about the late princess that no one could have ever imagined, from her wit to her warmth. Elton's revelations shed light on sides of Diana we never got to see, so what exactly did Elton John say about her? Stick around with us as we dive right into all the details. The confession. Diana and Elton's friendship was, to say the least, highly publicised back in the late 1980s. It was so unexpected that it turned heads and sparked conversations that honestly have not been put to rest even to this very day. The People's Princess and the legendary singer Elton John, the unexpected duo that even stirred things up within the royal family. This prompted King Charles to speak out, but we'll get to more on that later in the video. Now, after their relationship clearly stood the test of time, and following the tragic death of Diana, we all know Elton has consistently spoken very highly of her. But just a couple of weeks ago, he made a totally unexpected confession about the princess. Are you curious to find out what he said? Stay tuned. Their friendship dates back as far as 1981, and it was an instant friendship at first sight for the two. They first met at Prince Andrew's birthday party at Windsor Castle. I think you played at Prince Andrew's 21st, yes. At Windsor Castle, yeah. And their meeting was so memorable that the night they met, the two danced the Charleston together for 20 minutes straight, without even getting tired. And that's how their relationship always was, just filled with adventures. But like every human relationship, theirs was also complicated, and certainly not without its fair share of drama. But before we get ahead of ourselves, just how did Elton become so close to the royals? Well, Elton has actually been close buddies with the royals since the 1970s. Princess Margaret and the Queen Mother were coincidentally very big fans of Elton's music, according to the Press Association. The Queen Mother was even reportedly seen dancing to his music, so yeah, they were that close. Elton even got invited to attend art events with Princess Margaret and was a regular fixture at Charles's Prince's Trust annual concerts. On this particular occasion, where Elton and Diana met, he had been asked to perform with percussionist Ray Cooper, and when he arrived he found a quiet disco in the ballroom. Before he knew it, he found himself dancing with Princess Anne and Queen Elizabeth II, who clutched her handbag as they all grooved to Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock. Elton later wrote in his autobiography that he tried his very best to come up with a facial expression that suggested this was all a perfectly normal state of affairs. But everything changed when Princess Diana arrived. Elton John wrote that she was blessed, with an incredible social ease, and had the ability to make people feel completely comfortable just by being in her company. I haven't experienced many people in my life who have that ability, but she could just walk into a room of people and make them feel as if everything was great. That night in 1981, when she arrived in the ballroom, they immediately clicked. They ended up pretending to dance the Charleston while mocking the disco's feeble sound. From that moment, a powerful bond was formed between Elton John and Princess Diana, one that would carry them through the very highs of their lives, careers and the deep tragedies in their friend circles. Elton later wrote that over the years that he knew her, she was fabulous company, the absolute best dinner party guest, incredibly indiscreet, and a real gossip. He mentioned that you could ask her anything and she would tell you, but Diana wasn't the only royal Elton danced with that evening. He recalled that Princess Anne came up to him and asked if he would like to dance, and of course he couldn't refuse. They went into a disco where the music was so quiet you could hardly hear it, as they were just sort of bobbing up and down. And then the Queen approached with an equerry and asked if they minded if she joined them. Just as this all happened, the music changed to Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock, and Elton found himself dancing to it with the Queen of England. In a recent interview with Time magazine, Elton recounted meeting a young Prince Harry over at Kensington Palace. He shared that he first met an extremely shy and sweet Prince Harry at a private lunch that was hosted by Princess Diana for Gianni Versace, and himself many years ago. Elton expressed the joy of watching that young boy grow up to inherit his mother's warmth, her sense of humour and her courage to champion the causes he truly believes in. Over the many years of their friendship, the two famous friends were often spotted together at huge events like chatting backstage at the 1985 Live Aid concert or John performing for Diana at a 1997 show for the Prince's Trust. However, it was behind closed doors that their bond truly deepened. John once recalled a dinner party he hosted with Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone as guests, along with a newly single Princess Diana. John described the scene perfectly. Richard Gere and Diana were immediately drawn to each other. They ended up sitting in front of the fireplace, engaged in an incredibly intense conversation. But soon John noticed something strange was happening in the room. He observed that Stallone seemed increasingly uncomfortable shooting angry glances at the pair. John said that the tension was absolutely palpable, and before long, a fight nearly erupted between the two movie stars. Stallone, visibly irritated, eventually left in a total huff. And throughout the chaos, Diana remained perfectly calm and composed. John remarked that Diana either didn't realise what was happening, or perhaps she was just so accustomed to these situations that it didn't even faze her. This moment made John realise the extraordinary effect Diana had on people, particularly on men. He recalled being taken aback by how grown men would completely lose their composure in her presence. John noted that it wasn't just her beauty, but there was an intangible quality she possessed that left men utterly captivated. And despite her allure, John recognised Diana's true power lay in her humanity. He pointed to the famous photograph of Diana holding an AI patient's hand at the London Middlesex Hospital, noting how it was a subtle yet powerful statement that changed public attitudes towards AIDS. He believed that Diana wasn't necessarily making a political statement, but her simple act of kindness shifted perceptions on a truly global scale, while Diana's compassion and humanity cemented her place in the hearts of millions. Her personal relationships, just like anyone's, were complicated, incredibly complex. Even her close friendship with Elton John, which seemed so unshakable, was not spared from misunderstandings and major tensions. One particular moment would come to define the challenges their relationship faced, challenges Elton and Diana's friendship faced. Despite their deep bond, a rift developed between the two, which Tina Brown referred to as a deep freeze in Vanity Fair. This occurred over a 1997 coffee table book, Rock and Royalty, created with Gianni Versace to benefit the Elton John AIDS Foundation. The book included a number of photographs of the royal family, including one of Diana with her sons Prince William and Prince Harry, alongside images of semi-nude male models. Diana had initially agreed to write the book's foreword, but she unexpectedly withdrew at the very last minute. John was told that Diana was concerned the book would upset the Queen, but he felt that wasn't the whole story. He remembered Diana telling him that she had no idea about the contents of the book, which he knew was definitely not true. He said that Gianni Versace had personally shown her the entire book, and Diana had even expressed her love for it. Feeling confused and hurt by her sudden withdrawal, John decided to confront her about it directly. He wrote her a letter expressing how much money she had cost the AIDS Foundation by pulling out, and reminding her that she had already seen the book and approved of it. In response, Diana sent back a formal and severe letter beginning with "Dear Mr. John." John was infuriated by the cold tone of the letter, as he had always considered Diana a dear friend. But his anger ran deeper than just the formal response. He grew truly concerned for her well-being. He observed that she seemed to be distancing herself from people who would offer her honest advice. Instead, she appeared to be surrounding herself with people who only told her what she wanted to hear. John, reflecting on his own experiences, knew that this was simply not a healthy situation for her. Despite the rising tension, the rift between them remained, as John explained that it was just something that often happens between friends. He admitted that they were both far too proud to just pick up the phone and try to mend the situation. Sadly, it wasn't until a tragedy struck Gianni Versace's brutal murder in July 1997 that the two friends were able to finally reconcile. As soon as the news broke, John found Diana on the other end of the phone. John wasn't even sure how she had obtained his number, as they had only recently bought their house in Nice. Diana, who was staying on Dodi Fayed's yacht in Saint-Tropez, immediately reached out to check on him and asked if he had spoken to Donatella Versace. Then, with a truly sincere tone, she apologised, saying it was such a silly falling out and that they should be friends again. And friends once more, Diana sat beside John at Versace's funeral. During the service, a photographer captured a now famous image of Diana leaning toward John, seemingly to console him. And despite their shared grief, they found moments of lightness, something that had always defined their incredible friendship. Their reconciliation sparked new correspondence with Elton, sending Diana a thank you note, and in her reply she offered to become a patron for his AIDS Foundation and asked for his support for a landmine charity she was passionate about. Elton later remembered that they had made plans for a lunch meeting in London to discuss their charitable work, but tragically that meeting would never happen. On August 31st, 1997, John was woken by the sound of the fax machine. A handwritten message from a friend in London spoke of some terrible news. Confused, he turned on the television and discovered his beloved friend Princess Diana had tragically died in a car crash. Just 6 weeks later, John found himself at her funeral performing Candle in the Wind. He rewrote the song, which was originally about Marilyn Monroe, as a moving tribute to Diana after her passing, with the lyrics rewritten by his collaborator. Collaborator Bernie Taupin had been changed to honour Diana. We all remember Elton singing that song at Diana's funeral, and at the time, I don't know about you, but I just figured, oh, Elton's rewritten it. But of course he hadn't. Bernie did those new lyrics, right? Well, speaking of how she connected with the nation and brought comfort to people in pain, Elton reflected on that day. John said it was one of the most challenging performances of his entire life. He admitted that for 4 minutes the whole world's attention would be on him, making it the biggest moment of his career, but he knew this wasn't really about him. It was about honouring Diana. The sight of her 2 sons, William and Harry, left the strongest impression on him. He recalled how the boys, only 15 and 12 years old at the time, looked completely shell-shocked. He was appalled by the way they were treated, forced to walk behind their own mother's coffin through London's streets, and expected to remain completely emotionless and simply look straight ahead. He thought it was a terribly cruel way to treat 2 children grieving the loss of their mother. To this day, John feels a deep connection to Diana through her sons. In August 2019, after an incident involving Harry's privacy, he spoke out publicly, saying Diana had been one of his dearest friends and that he felt a strong obligation to protect Harry and his family from the invasive press behaviour that contributed to her own tragic death. After Diana's passing, John remained close to her family. In 2007, William and Harry joined him on stage at Wembley Stadium during a concert honouring their mother. He gave a special welcome to the 2 people whose idea it all was to do this wonderful event. Ladies and gentlemen, their Royal Highnesses Prince William and Prince Harry. Though he had only met Prince William a handful of times, John was present at William's wedding to Kate Middleton in 2011, and in 2017 he marked the 20th anniversary of Diana's passing with a heartfelt Instagram post writing, 20 years ago today, the world lost an angel. His charity, the Elton John AIDS Foundation, also paid tribute to Diana, acknowledging her incredible contributions to the fight against AIDS. Through his continued support and tributes, John ensures that Diana's legacy lives on. Now, let's talk about one of the most unforgettable moments after her death. Candle in the Wind, the Candle in the Wind drama. Remember when we said that the entire royal family, Prince Charles included, had issues with Elton John and Diana's friendship? Well, that tension became painfully obvious after Diana died during her funeral preparations. Don't go anywhere because this is about to get juicy. We all know the royal family is no stranger to drama, and scandal seems to follow them wherever they go. A prime example of this is the tragic tale of Princess Diana. It's been 27 years since she was killed in a car. Accident, yet new details about her life influence and even her death continue to come to light. One of the most intense moments at her funeral was Elton John's performance of Candle in the Wind, rewritten especially for Diana. But did you know the British royal family actually didn't want him to perform Their Reason? They thought the song would be too sentimental. Documents from the National Archives of the United Kingdom, recently accessed by Sky News, have now shed light on Buckingham Palace's serious concerns about the performance. In fact, the hesitation was so extreme that Westminster Abbey had a backup saxophonist on standby ready to replace Elton John if his tribute was vetoed. Reverend Dr. Wesley Carr, however, took a stand in a note to a senior member of the royal household. He stressed the massive importance of Elton John's performance. "This is a crucial point in the service, and we ask for boldness," he wrote. "This is where the unexpected happens, something from the modern world that the princess represented." Regarding Candle in the Wind, the Reverend made his case crystal clear. The best option would be Elton John's music, known to millions and so loved by the princess. Elton wrote new words for the melody, which was already being sung across the country in Diana's honour. Dr. Carr believed that Elton's tribute would be more than just a performance. It would be a creative and generous gift for the millions of people mourning Diana's loss. Ultimately, the Reverend's argument won out, and Elton's performance became one of the most unforgettable moments in the history of the royal family. But who is Elton John, the man whose music moved an entire nation? To understand his role in this emotional tribute, we have to look into the remarkable life of a true musical icon, whose journey from a small English town to global superstardom didn't just define, but completely redefined what it meant to be a legend. A bit of background on Elton John. Sir Elton Hercules John was born Reginald Kenneth Dwight on March 25th, 1947. He's a British singer, songwriter and pianist from Pinner, Middlesex, the eldest child of Stanley Dwight and only child of Sheila Eileen. He was raised in a council house in Pinner by his maternal grandparents, and his parents married in 1945 when the family moved into a nearby semi-detached house. Elton attended Pinewood Junior School, Redeford School and Pinner County Grammar School until he was 17, when he left right before his A-level exams to chase a career in music. When John began to seriously consider a music career, his father, who served in the Royal Air Force, tried to guide him toward a more conventional job like banking. But Elton has said that his wild stage costumes and performances were his way of breaking free from a restrictive childhood. Both of his parents were musically inclined. His father had been a trumpet player with the Bob Miller Band, a semi-professional big band that played at military dances. The Dwights were also avid record buyers, exposing Elton to the popular singers and musicians of the day. Elton started playing his grandmother's piano as a young boy, and within a year his mother heard him picking out the Skater's Waltz by ear. After performing at parties and family gatherings at age 7, he began taking formal piano lessons. He showed real musical aptitude at school, even composing his own melodies and gaining notoriety by playing like Jerry Lee Lewis at school functions. At age 11, he won a junior scholarship to the Royal Academy of Music. According to one instructor, John promptly played back just like a gramophone record, a 4-page piece by George Friedrich Handel, after hearing it just once, for the next 5 years. Elton attended Saturday classes at the Academy in central London and has said he enjoyed playing Frédéric Chopin and Johann Sebastian Bach and singing in the choir during his Saturday classes, but he wasn't otherwise a diligent classical student. In fact, Elton would sometimes skip his classes and just ride around on the London Underground. Still, several instructors have insisted he was a model student, and during his last few years he took lessons from a private tutor on top of his classes at the Academy. He left the school before taking the final exams. Elton's mother, though strict with her son, was much more vivacious than her husband and a bit of a free spirit. With Stanley Dwight uninterested in his son and often away, Elton was raised mainly by his mother and his maternal grandmother. When his father was home, the Dwights had furious arguments that really distressed Elton. When he was 14, they divorced, and his mother then married a local painter, Fred Fairbrother, who was a caring and supportive stepfather whom John affectionately called Durf, Fred spelled backward. They moved into flat number 3A in an 8-unit apartment building called Frome Court, not far from their previous homes. It was there Elton wrote the songs that launched his career. As a rock star, he formed the blues band Bluesology in 1962, but left in 1967 to start a solo career. Coincidentally, Elton met Bernie Taupin that very same year after they both responded to an ad in the music magazine New Musical Express in 1967, shortly after meeting the pair, formed a collaboration, and for 2 years they wrote songs for other artists while Elton worked as a session musician. In 1969, Elton released his debut album Empty Sky, and a year later he formed the Elton John Band, also releasing his first smash hit single, Your Song, John's critical and commercial. Success was at its absolute peak in the 1970s when he released a string of chart-topping albums in both the US and UK, which began with Honky Chateau and culminated with Rock of the Westies. His success continued on into the 1980s and 90s, having several hit singles and albums in both decades, and he has continued to record new music. Ever since, Elton also found huge success in musical films and theatre composing music for The Lion King in 1994, Ada in 2000, and Billy Elliot the Musical in 2005. In 2018 to 2023, Elton held his final tour, Farewell Yellow Brick Road, which became the highest-grossing tour ever at the time. In 2019, Elton's life and career were dramatised in the acclaimed biopic Rocket Man starring Taron Egerton. Elton John is more than a musician, he's a powerful HIV and AIDS charity fundraiser who has been deeply involved in the fight against the disease. He's been battling AIDS since the late 1980s, which led him to establish the Elton John AIDS Foundation. He started it in 1992, raising over £300 million since day one. This year's keynote speaker was the legendary musician and songwriter and performer Sir Elton John, whose 20-year-old foundation has raised more than $275 million to fight this disease. And just a year later, he started hosting his annual AIDS Foundation Academy Awards party, which has since become one of the most exclusive events. It's now one of the biggest, most high-profile Oscar parties in the entire Hollywood film industry. Now let's turn to his legendary music career. Elton has racked up more than 50 top 40 hits on the UK singles chart and the US Billboard Hot 100, including an incredible 9 number ones in both countries. And get this, he also had 7 consecutive number one albums in the US. He sold over 300 million records worldwide. That makes him one of the best-selling music artists of all time. But wait, there's more. He is the most successful solo artist in the history of the US Billboard charts. His incredible tribute single to Diana, Princess of Wales' Candle in the Wind 1997 was a rewritten version of his 1974 single. It sold a whopping 33 million copies worldwide and is the best-selling chart single of all time. Then, in 2021, he became the first solo artist with UK top 10 singles across 6 separate decades. Among John's numerous awards, he is one of just 21 entertainers to win the EGOT, which includes an Emmy Award 5, Grammy Awards, 2 Academy Awards, and a Tony Award. He also won 2 Golden Globes, a Laurence Olivier Award, and the prestigious Kennedy Center Honor. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1992 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994, and is a Fellow of the Ivor Academy. He was also appointed a Knight Bachelor for his services to music and charity in 1998, and was appointed a member of the Order of the Companions of Honour in 2020. So what do you think about Elton John's friendship with Princess Diana? Share all your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also be sure to click on that next video on your screen because you won't want to miss it.